All right, let's jump straight into this because today we're unpacking the single most fascinating and undeniably the most expensive economic phenomenon in Indian life. We are looking at a massive, unstoppable machine that essentially runs on love, tradition, and, let's be honest, an intense amount of social pressure. By 2026, the Indian wedding industry is projected to reach a staggering, almost unbelievable valuation of 6.5 lakh crore rupees. That makes it the country's fourth largest industry. It literally sits right behind IT, agriculture, and manufacturing. I want every single one of you tuning into this explainer to just pause and think about your own family for a second. Think about your savings and those heavy societal expectations placed right on your shoulders. Because this explainer, it's really about the financial reality hiding behind our most celebrated cultural institution.
It's honestly a shocking national contradiction, right? As a nation, we collectively spend more money getting married than we do on keeping ourselves healthy or educating our kids. Despite having far lower average incomes than places like the US or Europe, India alone contributes an unbelievable 25% of the entire world's wedding market. Just let that sink in. Millions of families, earning regular, modest incomes, are somehow pulling together astronomical sums of money for a 3-day event. To really understand how we got to a point where a middle-class family will casually blow through 3 entire years of their income in just 3 days, we first need to look at the absolute peak of the mountain.
And there is absolutely no higher peak right now than the July 2024 wedding of Anant Ambani and Radhika Merchant. The estimated cost of this single event sat somewhere between $600 million and $1 billion US. It completely obliterated global benchmarks. It's widely considered the most expensive wedding in Indian history and, honestly, possibly human history. I mean, the venue alone, the Geo World Convention Center, cost $1 billion just to build and is 10 times the size of the Empire State Building. They hired a dedicated team of 50 videographers and 100 photographers who took 1 million photos. And the guest list? The people in that room had a combined 10 billion Instagram followers.
Now, to truly grasp the sheer, mind-boggling scale of that opulence, just consider this one detail. At the Ambani venue, there were 1,000 designer toilets scattered throughout. Each of these toilets cost 1.5 lakh rupees. That is 15 crore rupees, or about $1.8 million spent just on the toilets alone. The event was so massive, it created 60,000 jobs across India and the world just in preparation. But look, while it's super easy to look at billionaires and think, well, their spending exists in a vacuum, the reality is that their luxury sets a psychological benchmark, and that benchmark ripples down through every single tax bracket in the country.
But okay, let's zoom out from the billionaires for a second and look at the 2026 macro scale, because the numbers get even crazier. We're looking at an entire national industry worth 6.5 lakh crore rupiah, growing at a massive 15% annually. India hosts approximately 1 crore, that's 10 million weddings every single year. In just the 45 days of peak wedding season, more money flows through the Indian wedding industry than entire national economic sectors manage in a full year. So how does an industry get this massive? Well, that happens because of a very specific cultural timeline.
Because this scale didn't just happen overnight. Each generation of Indian billionaires actively tries to outdo the last. In 2004, Lakshmi Mittal spent $66 million to host his daughter's wedding at the literal Palace of Versailles in Paris. Then in 2013, the Mittals outdid themselves, buying out an entire national museum in Barcelona for 500 crore. In 2016, right in the middle of the demonetization cash crisis, mining tycoon Janardhan Reddy spent $75 million in Bangalore. And now, the Ambani wedding has set a benchmark that honestly may never be broken. But here's why this matters directly to you. Every luxury wedding at the top creates this massive trickle-down effect. It constantly shifts the goalposts of what a good wedding looks like, leaving middle-class families feeling like their own 20 lakh wedding is somehow completely inadequate.
And this psychology is perfectly captured by a recent financial analysis that just hit the nail on the head. In India, a wedding isn't just a party, it is your family's IPO. It's a public declaration of your family status, your stability, and your wealth. Think about the questions people ask. How big is the venue? Which hotel hosted the reception? Did you have a live singer? Every single decision is a signal to your entire social network. Every cutback is noticed by your relatives, and every upgrade is admired. And when you start viewing it as a public market listing, you quickly realize why absolutely no family wants to list their stock at a discount.
Now, if you actually ask people why they spend so much, the data is pretty revealing. Only 29% of Indians will openly admit that they spend big just to showcase their wealth. Nearly half, 48%, say they spend heavily because of tradition and cultural values. But let's be deeply honest with ourselves for a minute here.
The harsh reality is that tradition and social pressure are very often the exact same thing, just wearing different clothes. It is an invisible pressure machine. Your cousin had 500 guests, so you feel yours has to have at least 400. Your neighbor booked the Taj, so you simply cannot book a lesser hotel without losing face in the community.
And today, that invisible pressure is multiplied tenfold online. Look at this wild statistic. 7% of Gen Z couples are now hiring dedicated social media managers for their weddings. And note, this is completely separate from their cinematic photography teams. These managers are hired specifically to create real-time content, Instagram Reels, custom Snapchat filters, live coverage of the whole shebang. The wedding is no longer just an event to remember, it's a meticulously crafted content campaign designed to broadcast social status in real time. And every single view of that story creates a new layer of pressure on the next family to match it.
This desperate pressure to deliver a truly unique and highly Instagrammable experience has fueled an absolute boom in destination weddings. The shift from a simple hometown ceremony to a curated luxury experience means 1 in 4 Indian weddings is now a destination event. In fact, for budgets over 1 crore rupees, 60% are destination celebrations. Looking at the 2026 projections, this specific segment alone is valued at 2.5 lakh crore rupees. It's growing at 35% year over year. It's officially the fastest-growing segment of the fastest-growing industry.
When you break down the exact costs by city, you see how palaces in Rajasthan and resorts in Goa have practically built their entire economic models around your family's big day. In Udaipur, which is basically the absolute crown jewel of destination weddings, you're looking at 50 to 70 lakh rupiah for just 150 guests. Jaipur commands similar premiums, often just for a 2-day event, especially since all the big celebrities started getting engaged and married there. And Goa? Premium weddings at resorts there range anywhere from 40 lakh rupiah up to 1 crore. Entire palace hotels have structured themselves so that by hosting your wedding for 3 days, they earn what would normally take them a full month of regular operations.
But the hidden math behind this shift is what's really fascinating. Destination weddings actually cost about 40% more per guest. However, they allow families to limit the absolute biggest cost lever in any Indian wedding, the guest list. A traditional city wedding with 500 guests in a ballroom can easily cost 50 to 80 lakh rupees, but a destination wedding with just 100 close guests at a high-end resort can be done for 30 to 50 lakh rupees. It gives you a vastly superior luxury experience per guest, generates incredible photos, and, crucially, it actually caps the total spend by providing a very polite excuse to keep the guest list small. Oh, we'd love to invite everyone, but we're just doing an intimate thing in Goa. It's brilliant. But once you arrive at that destination, you are trapped in an incredibly efficient wealth extraction machine. The base venue rental, that's just the bait. Next comes the mandatory in-house catering. No outside food allowed, obviously, and they're charging 2,500 to 4,000 rupees per plate. Then, you face a 300% to 500% markup on the bar and beverages. Finally, they force mandatory room block bookings, requiring the family to rent 50 to 100 rooms. You arrive thinking you've simply booked a venue for a party, but you've actually opened a tab that literally never closes. You're paying for generator backups, security, parking, all billed separately.
And it absolutely does not stop at the hotel walls. Beyond the venue, an entire shadow economy quietly takes its cut. Wedding planners take 5 to 10% of your total budget, plus, and this is the kicker, silent 10 to 15% kickbacks from every single vendor they recommend to you. Photographers, who maybe a decade ago charged 50,000 rupees, now operate like cinematic production companies, charging anywhere from 3 lakh up to 20 lakhs. The bridal wear market alone is a 1 lakh crore industry where designer lehengas can easily hit 50 lakh rupees. Even the digital platforms use a pay-to-play model, charging vendors for visibility just like food delivery apps do. It turns a simple marriage into a massive wealth transfer from your family's life savings to dozens of independent businesses.
The amount of money moving around is so staggering that even the Indian government has stepped in. They recently launched the Wed in India campaign. Why? Because right now, affluent Indians are spending an estimated 1 lakh crore, that is $12.1 billion on overseas destination weddings in places like Bali, Thailand, and Europe. The government wants to capture that wealth, actively incentivizing couples to choose Indian palaces over foreign beaches. They want to ensure this culturally mandated mega budget stays within India's borders to boost our own economy.
Yet there is a deeply personal, really dark side to all this extravagance. The expectations set by the billionaires and the Instagram algorithms are driving regular middle-class families straight into a financial crisis. An average middle-class wedding now costs between 20 lakh rupees and 1 crore rupee. And because most families cannot afford this in cash, we're seeing an absolute boom in specialized wedding loans, which are marketed super aggressively by banks and NBFCs. Just think about how heartbreaking this is. Families are borrowing money, completely spending it in just 3 days on a party, and then spending years repaying that debt. And the most fascinating contradiction of all, 7 in 10 urban Indians believe we spend too much on weddings. Yet, because of that cultural pressure, this spending rises every single year.
I want you to look closely at this devastating opportunity cost. A middle-class family spending 30 lakh rupees on a wedding isn't just losing that cash. If that same money were invested instead, compounding over 20 years, it would grow to 2 to 3 crore rupees. By choosing to throw a 3-day event that ends at midnight, families are literally sacrificing the generational wealth that could have secured their future. That money could have paid for an incredible education or guaranteed a comfortable retirement. Instead, the vendors make money, the venue makes money, the jeweler makes money, and the family? The family just makes memories and debt.
And that brings us to the ultimate question we all need to answer. As this incredibly engineered spending machine barrels toward a valuation of 15 lakh crore by 2030, we have to pause and ask ourselves, who is really winning here? When your family decides to go public with their IPO, are you actually celebrating a beautiful union? Or are you just willingly stepping into a financial trap just to impress neighbors and distant relatives? It's a tough conversation, but it's one every single family needs to have. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the 6.5 lakh crore wedding economy. If this explainer made you rethink how we spend our money, make sure to share it with your family, and I'll see you in the next one.